Hi, this is Cheryl with Vitamin MM and lesson 6 in our series Sit to Death. This is a lesson called Lifting Your Arm with Your Pelvis. We've been doing a lot of movement study related to the properties of dynamic sitting and just the simple, the value in having movement happen in your sitting. And this is a lesson that builds upon that history, but looking at the issue of, how we use our arms, what we're holding, what we're reaching, what we're manipulating, can have a fundamental impact on the shape of your spine and what's happening in sitting. And so this is a lesson that takes that basic movement of our arms and plugs it into the support from our pelvis and from the floor under our feet, to render our arms lighter as we lift them. And so, a good little reference movement is just to start, in sitting, lifting your arm, doing it slowly enough that you can feel the point where you start to feel the thickening of muscles, whether it's your bicep or your deltoids or, whatever part of your arm, but that you could start to feel when the work loads on. And so this is a lesson that we're doing it lying on our back. And so, lying, good idea to have your knees bent, your feet on the ground, and then just, starting some exploration of lifting your wrist, almost like there's a little helium balloon to lift your arm. And again, doing that self-exploration of not just lifting in a rote way, but lifting slowly enough that you could start to feel where the muscles really thicken, where the weight of your arms starts to come on. And so just noticing where that is. The other big awareness and the factor we played with is this thing about your shoulder point. So this front part of your shoulder, to notice when you're lifting your wrist in this way, is it your habit to have your shoulder point, rise towards the ceiling? Does it kind of stay still? Does it come back towards the ground? And so, just explore for yourself what your natural tendency is about whether it's coming up. Maybe it doesn't move at all, and the movement of your arms happening in a different way, or that there's this, descending down to the ground beneath you. And then to do that exploration on the other side, not just assuming that what happens on one side will happen on the other. And so we did a couple contrasts to deliberately, bring the shoulder point forward and lift your arm. And again, listening for that moment of, when the work, the heaviness starts to come on, and really getting clear about that. And then doing the opposite, bringing the point of your shoulder down and lifting your arm and feeling the difference of that maybe there's a different place or maybe even absence of when there's work happening in the arm in order to raise that. And of course, we're working with the counterbalance of the movement of your shoulder blade down to facilitate the lifting of your arm up. And so doing that contrast on both sides, because one side may have different habits than the other. So the contrast of the shoulder point up and then the shoulder point down to the ground. Then we started playing with a little bit of connection. So this idea that if I push through, press my right foot into the ground, that there's a force that comes up, comes across, has my pelvis move such that I can push my left shoulder point into the ground as the result of this pressure wave coming through my right foot. And so we played with that on the diagonal. We also played with it happening on the right side. So I pressed my right foot down and have that come to press my right shoulder point to the ground. And then doing it on the other side. So pressing your left foot down and having that wave travel through you to bring your shoulder blade down to the ground. And then on the same side. And it's always good to just notice differences in the process and the timing, what happens first and then next in each side. But then we married this together with pressing into your foot and lifting each arm, pressing into your right foot and lifting both, and pressing into both feet in order to lift your wrists. And just really noticing, how that can, take the weight out of your arms so that they're almost just floating up. And then we did one more variation, which had us turning our palm with a lift and coming to just touch our cheek. But really noticing, is this movement facilitated by this counterbalance, this dropping of the shoulder blade that allows a delicate touch of your hand on your cheek, and of course doing it on both sides. And then we finished with a little exploration of having both hands behind the neck and, exploring this movement of the shoulder blades. So bringing them down, bringing them up, bringing your elbows closer together, which brings them further apart, bringing your shoulder blades closer together so your elbows move apart, just so there's a real clarity of how this movement of the shoulder blades can affect your arms. And then coming back to just the simple lifting with this connection to our shoulder blades, with this pressing through our feet in order to have a light, weightless arm lift. So that's the highlights reel for this lesson. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you at an upcoming class.